Isn't the recycling at the high school like bullshit?
Yeah.
Where have you heard that from?
Everyone?
Like various people around.
Do you think it's true?
Yeah, because I don't think they actually go
I heard that
recycle it.
everything goes to the same place.
Yeah, that's what I
Part
heard.
of me wants to believe that it's not true, but
It's probably true.
Someone told me that we have the separate containers and people sort of throw them in separate containers, but then when it's getting sent away, they put it all in the same thing and it all goes to the trash.
Recycling, I've heard that the recycling also does not, you know, get to, like, it's not actually recycled, it's just mixed in with the, like, trash. Yeah.
Do you believe that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after the composting thing, like, my expectations are pretty low for sustainability in IHS.
I know we collect recyclables and put them in the hall.
What happens after that?
It used to be that the BOCES people would come pick it all up, like once a week or so. But like all things, the programs change over time, so I don't know how much of it's actually going to a recycling center at this point.
Do you think that students at the school recycle?
Well, I mean, it's a huge problem. From people I've heard that actually the recycling and the compost and trash actually go into one large pit for trash instead. Though I do feel as if the students did recycle and the teachers had recycling bins in all their classrooms and we actually did enforce that and actually go through with that, I feel like it could really help the environment. Because we are a huge school, we're of 1,600 people, and 1,600 people recycling can really make a difference, especially in the environment. Well, no one has actually confirmed it. To me personally, it is like just a rumor that I've heard within teachers and students in this school. Though I have heard it from teachers themselves, actually.
That's what we're going to talk about, kind of. Officially, there is no policy.
But in practice, what do you think?
In practice, I guess kind of what we learned is that the janitors, they'll put things where they need to go, but they're not going to sort through all the bins in the high school. They're just going to put the recycling in a recycling thing, and the trash in a trash thing.
Yeah.
That's just kind of what we got. It's not the best answer, but
so
after talking to the head custodian,
the recycling that is, if I put something in the recycling bin, that will go to a recycling center, not a landfill.
Theoretically, yes, but I've heard accounts of teachers saying that they see their recycling bins go straight into the trash.
Whether or not there's recycling is one of those classic urban legends that everybody's like, oh, I saw the custodians garbage throwing it out. If the recycling is really contaminated, they do have to throw it out. And when they collect it in the carboys. So it's the same equipment as is used for garbage. So people see that and go, oh, they're throwing it out, but it's really the carboy that's got all the recycling and they're carting it around.
My name is Emily Powers, and I'm in a group for government class to help the student body at Ithaca High School recycle.
What did Jeff Holcomb say to you when you talked to him?
He didn't say anything specifically to me because I wasn't the one who talked to him, but in the group he said that if the recycling is contaminated, then it all just goes in the trash and the recycling, and no recycling of bottles. He didn't talk about how much contamination is needed in a bottle, or in a can.
So in terms of official policy, as chair of the policy committee, I can say that there is not an official policy on recycling. Doesn't mean that we don't have a practice or things that we do in terms of recycling. So I guess I'll let Paul respond to the second part of the question.
For instance, in an office, we'll separate it and there'll be different types of recycling in those different canisters. And then what'll happen is the custodian will separate them out. Oftentimes, I know at the high school, their practice is to use a brute can, which is the big 55-gallon one on wheels, use that, a separate one for paper, and cardboard usually they just tie together. And then the other one would be for garbage. And it is sorted out in different places. I mean, some custodians sort them out in the room, other custodians bring it down to a general area, which is receiving down here, and then they'll sort it out there. Currently, the reason the district does not do single stream is that the district does realize revenue from BOCES who picks up cardboard and paper. And that's just a practice. That isn't, there is, like Sean said, there is no policy for that, but that has been the practice for many years.
So in each classroom, should there be a separate container for paper and cardboard and then a separate container for bottles?
Yes. The long and short of it is yes, there should be.
We were told that none of the bottles and cans were recycled, that they were all thrown away.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, because what our issue oftentimes is the bottles that are mixed in with the paper, and the contamination that exists, and what will happen in that case, because then we take it up to BOCES, it'll be separated up there. So anything that's in a proper container and that we can take to BOCES, we certainly do. In the same with the tin. It used to be just tin cans, and we don't get as many as we used to.
The only time that it's something that could potentially become recyclable, doesn't end up in recycling, is if it's so contaminated that they won't accept it for recycle plant. In which case it has to go to municipal waste.
How would something like that, how would I guess a bottle become contaminated?
Well, if you look at milk containers, the milk cartons for the lunchroom, if those were dumped in with the paper will not be acceptable as a revenue source, and it can't be taken to recycling, it would have to go to solid waste.
The custodial staff do recognize if it's too contaminated, it's going to go in the garbage, because it doesn't bode well for us with Cuga Compost, and we want to make sure that's a good working relationship, so we don't want to send anything that's over contaminated. So if any is thrown out, it's thrown out strictly because it's contaminated and can't be composted, because we do have, at each individual building, we do have compost pickups. But I do know that from communications that I've seen from Cuga Compost that we need to do a better job of making sure it's not contaminated.
I've put a little bit of thought into this. Maybe we could have volunteers, students, or teachers stand next to the bins and help students that are throwing away stuff to put them in the right places.
We also did some statistical research around Cornell and other things around Cornell, and we found that an average person each day generates about 4 pounds of trash, and 75% of that trash is actually recyclable. So we'd like to find different ways of how to recycle that, and we took a survey and asked the students if they actually care about recycling, and 85% of the students said that they really do care about it. And so we were looking for different ways that we could actually bring recycling into it, and we found we need more bins throughout the school. So that's why we're asking you guys if you guys have any resources or any way to help us to be able to get more bins to put around throughout the building.
For anyone watching this, I'll address you directly. It's up to you to actually make some sort of difference in the high school, because the people here are doing what they can. It is going to places to be sorted, but without your help, things become contaminated, things become ineligible to be recycled, to be composted. So it really comes down to the student and staff engagement in recycling and compost.
Yeah, like I said, you're gonna throw that in the recycle bin.
I'm not.
I bet you will, cause.
Are you kidding me?